Hello and welcome to this episode of Jeff Jones and Friends Make It Better, the show that takes life's little annoyances, beats them down, smashes them around, builds them back up again, and ultimately makes everything better. Today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by comedian Michael McMahon, aka Irish. Irish, how are you?
Really good, Jeff. Good to see you. How are you, man?
Yes, I'm very, very well. I love this bit because kind of act like we've not been talking for the last half an hour. Um, no, thank you so much for joining me this evening. You're a comedian running the circuit. How's that going?
yeah, really good. So I've been doing it for 2.5 years now. Before the end of this year, because I've done two runs at Edinburgh Fringe Festival,
Wow.
I'll get to about 400 gigs, which is if you'd asked me that 2.5 years ago, I'd have been not thought that was possible.
So did you say
But
400?
400, yeah. So I did.
That's mad.
Yeah, so I've done because I did Edinburgh Fringe last year, and then I did it this year. Like this year, I did 77 gigs in 3 weeks. So it was pretty
Oh,
intense. It was really busy, but it was really rewarding, really good fun. And I got to meet a few other some proper comedians, if you will, people like Daniel Sloss and such. The like,
I love
yeah,
Daniel
yeah,
Sloss.
super nice guy as well. Really, really good
I
bloke.
bet.
Yeah, so met him and Mark Simmons, and yeah, so we just met a bunch of people in the performers' lounges. So yeah, it was good.
Oh,
It was good fun.
very nice. That's the thing. I mean, if you say, "Oh, I've been doing it 2.5 years," people will think, "Well, that's not a long period of time." But actually, when you put it into numbers of 400, when in stand-up comedy, to be able to hone the skill, to be able to practice the set, to be able to get things right, and to be able to know I don't know how to interact with the crowd. Like all of the, yeah, a thousand-piece puzzle that is doing a stand-up comedy gig. Like 400 is a lot, especially in 2.5 years.
Yeah, so I think I sort not cheated the system, but I got sort of fairly good fairly quickly, because of what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Because in the Navy, the when I was watching other comedians of the same sort of experience level as me going through the process, they're learning, how do we hold a microphone, how do we engage with an
Hmm.
audience, how do we keep attention, all that kind of stuff, that stage crap that is part and parcel of being because it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it, it's about how you move around, engage with the audience. Well, I already knew how to do all of that, so because I've had a whole career of doing it. So yeah, so for me, it was almost like a cheat. The only thing I had to worry about is being funny. The rest of it was a natural part of just how I deliver. So yeah, so when you're watching other people who are at the same experience level as me, it's a bit of an imbalance just because of that. Just because I've done so much of standing in front of people
Yeah.
and talking, you know.
Yeah. And when you're in that position, it's you kind of, I suppose, having a script per se, but also being able to kind of find those reactions and doing that kind of off script piece as well, which obviously forms a lot of comedy, but being able to follow the structure of a conversation. But yeah, just making sure there's a joke every 20, 30, 40 minutes, seconds, is the kind of the craft that you have to learn, which, yeah, great stand. I suppose I'd never really thought of it actually in that kind of basic term of you've got all of the bits and pieces together and you're just literally adding in the punchlines. I know it's not quite that simple, but yeah, you've got the other traits and the other skills already.
Exactly, because what I never really thought about when I first started, because I got a lot of attention fairly quickly, it wasn't even then that I realized that. But then when you look back on it, you go, oh no, so I already like that. So people are like, how are you at this sort of confidence level already? And when I sort of sat down and thought about it, it was because of that. Is because I am literally all of the skill sets that you need to do it. I've got all of that bit. It's just, can he be funny? Can he make jokes? Can he make an audience laugh and being
Yeah.
and that comes down to just the ridiculous stories a person builds when they're in the Navy.
Yes. Well, which everyone knows someone or has experienced the interesting and colourful stories from the people in the Navy. Uh, I I tell you what. So yeah, we're about to get into it. What? first of all, I want to make sure that people know where to find you because it is a career which is blossoming. And yeah, it was your birthday recently, and what was actually so nice as I stalked your social media profiles, which kind of the amazing thing the other kind of circuit comedians were saying about you, and yeah, because I did read, yes, Geordie Jeff was saying how it's been a couple of years, but just watching you grow. I mean, yeah, it's nice seeing that kind of admiration or accolade from kind of other circuit comedians, especially if you're doing it for that perceived kind of short amount of time, considering maybe to some of the peers. But I mean, so it certainly is a stand career which is blossoming as well. So where can people find you? Where can they follow you to see not only what you're doing, but where you are as well?
So for Instagram and TikTok, I am just Irish the comedian, so as simple as that. And then for Facebook, it's Michael Irish McMahon. But that's and that's where I advertise most of my stuff. But it is interesting. You mentioned Geordie Jeff because he was the MC at the first ever gig I did in the Attic in Taunton. And I had been so the guy that owns it, Chris, he had said come the month before so you get a feel for the room and just watch a show. And Geordie was on that night. He was doing a comedy set. And then I ended up Facebook friends with him. And over the course of the last 2.5 years, that man has given me a load of advice. He's a really supportive of not just me, but of comedians in general. He's probably, one of the at our level, the biggest promoter in the area. And he's just a brilliant, brilliant guy. And he likes to keep it quiet, but he's ex-military himself. He was in the army for 10 years. So yeah, it's just a really, really good bloke.
Guys.
Him and his beautiful wife Andy are absolutely top notch and really supportive of all the comedians on the circuit. So yeah, shout out to that guy.
Well, I'm starting to think he's paying you, look. So I'm pretty sure. So episode one was we had Elizabeth Neeson on.
Yeah, little Liz,
Li-
love her.
Little Liz.
Yeah,
She was on, and I'm pretty sure she said lots of nice things about Jeff as well. So I'm pretty sure he's got money going in people's pockets.
yeah. He's just because we did like so for little Liz, and we've just done it for Des Grant. Well, I can't help it but call her Little Liz.
Uh,
Liz and I roasted each other. We did a comedy roast in the attic a couple of months ago. So it was yeah, we got quite brutal with one another. But it was a lot of fun. And yeah. So we've just done it. So we did with Liz with Des Grant, who came second in Hampshire Comedian of the Year, despite the fact that he's only been gigging for 6 months.
wow.
We do yeah, so we do military gigs, and Little Liz and Des came on and did like a middle slot, first ever paid gigs, to come and do comedy in front of military people, which is quite brutal. It's tough.
Mhm.
It's a tough gig, but they both smashed it. They
Oh,
absolutely smashed it. So it was, yeah, it was good fun.
oh, brilliant. Well, yeah. I mean, this was a she was hilarious. It was great. We were talking a lot about people who eat noisily. Was was a big part of it. So hey, wow, this is the first time I think I've done a hey, people go and check out this if you hate people who eat noisily. But no, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, so the over the years the comedians we've had on this show actually, a lot of them have been so we've had quite a few from the kind of Portsmouth side, but it's great. I've got quite a lot now from that Southampton side and up country coming on. So I think there's a little community of you all who have been very kind and using your time to come on the show. Anyway, Irish, right. Let's get into the nitty-gritty anyway. We've had too much of the niceties. What is it
Yeah.
that we are making better today?
Oh, I don't want to mess this up. I can't remember what the subject title was. I thought you were going to say it to me, and then I was just going to go, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Irish, you said to me we're gonna make better coming to comedy at an older age.
That's
Talk
exactly what we said.
talk to me about it.
now that you say that out loud,
That bit, it's all staying in, just so you know.
yeah, good. Because I was sitting here going, I can't remember what the subject was, and I picked it, and that's really bad. So there's the first thing about old age is your memory is not always what you want it to be. So that can be a thing. Yeah. So coming in at an older age is just, I think first and foremost is a realization that it's likely to be a hobby. You might make a couple of quid here and there, but you're not going to have the longevity of somebody who has started out as a teenager.
Yeah,
People like Daniel Sloss and Jimmy Carr, all those sorts of people that started really properly earlier in their lives. You're probably not going to make it to that degree. So, um, because by the time you've done 20 years, for me, I'll be near 70. So it's not
okay.
a yeah, it's just a realization, a realistic managing of your own expectations that you might not end up at live at the Apollo or on TV doing it. So that's one thing. The other thing is for me is just recommend is just to do it because it is, and like I said earlier, I feel I have a cheat code because I've spent so long briefing people. But it does not take away from the fact that the first time I ever did a stand-up set, I was petrified to the point where I genuinely turned to walk away. And my
Oh,
wife stopped me. Yeah, she was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I can't do this." And it was an open mic night at the Attic in Tottenham, where I gig a lot now. Um, and like I said, Geordie Jeff was the MC. But the guy that was on before me killed the room.
yeah.
He wasn't getting laughs. Then he started having a go at the audience because that's how you will bring them on side is clearly by dropping the C bomb, which
Oh,
was in yeah, it was just like
oh,
why would you do yeah? So the room just died, and I have been to enough comedy shows as a punter to know that it's not a really good place to go on stage after that. So I was already really nervous. I was like, oh, this couldn't have gone worse. But then my wife was like, right, come on. You're in the room. You've practiced the five. It's all you got to do. 5 minutes set.
yeah.
That's all you got to do the first time you do it. You've practiced the 5 minutes. You know what you're going to say. Get up there and get it done. So I sort of did that, zipped up my man suit, and went up on stage and then did it, and it went really well. I got three more gigs that evening. There was a couple of people like going, "Oh, okay, so we don't know you, but you're clearly quite good. But how come we're like the promoters in the area? How is it we're not aware of your comedy?" And I was like, "That's the first time I've ever done that." And they were just sort of looking at me like, "Are you for real?" I was like, "Yep, first time." So yeah, and on we go. That was gig one of what is about to be 400. So yeah, it's a quite the journey you go on doing this.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I was gonna say to you when when you said about coming into it older, like you actually don't. I mean, so you're almost 50?
Yeah, I turned 48 on Sunday.
48. I mean, I had a picture a couple of years younger than that. So I was going to be like, what? If you're saying older, then what's that leave for? I mean, I'm a mere 43 myself. So yeah,
Gee.
I did my midlife crisis a few years ago with comedy, but now just yeah, I am the 43-year-old with a podcast. It's what most of us do. Some of us do stand up, some of us go to a podcast. Those who can do, those who can't podcast. Um, but what I mean, I love that story because, and again, I was talking to one of our, I don't think it was Liz, um, but just about stand up and how it is, I think, the kind of one of the most difficult, certainly in a creative or artistic format to do because you can, if you can sing a bit and play a guitar, you can get up on stage and probably a good percentage of people, if you're doing covers, they'll sing along. If you write your own stuff, you're probably a bit better, so they'll listen and they'll appreciate. If you're, I don't know, if your artwork, getting up on stage and actually trying to make people laugh is A, one of the most hardest things in the world because you're not going to get a 50-50 divide just from getting up and telling a funny story or something. You'll have some people chuckle along. So to get an impactful laugh, you've got to be good, right? And going up with a dead a dead crowd after someone's just bombed and and started abusing. That sounds horrific to me. I'd say, yeah, as you said, yeah, zip up your massive. But that is, I mean, that's a massive step for your first ever time as well.
And I totally agree. And the one thing that, in terms of if, if musically, if you're good, if you're tuneful, if you sing, people are going to enjoy it because,
Yeah,
you're in tune, and people will have, various things that they like or don't like about the set. But when you do comedy, the one thing that people that are even thinking about it, it's instantaneous feedback. So, and then
yes,
that's the one thing I didn't really realize that, and that's where the confidence came because when you say something and then an audience laugh or don't laugh, so you know straight away
yeah,
whether or not something's funny or not because you're feeling that. So it's not like you sing a song, you wait 3, 4 minutes, the song's over, and then people will applaud. Um, but comedy is different because it's that you, as soon as you've said it, you know that that was your punchline, and
yeah,
if they don't laugh, you have to do the mental arithmetic and or try and push on to the next bit of the story and hope that bit's
Eh,
hooks them and you get the laughter
yeah,
there. And then each night the audience is different. That one audience will laugh at that punchline and they won't even realize that this is a punchline, and it's just like, well, yeah, it can be quite the mental acrobatic act to
yeah,
or maybe they're not so keen on this kind of stuff, so you got to change what you're going to deliver. And yeah, so but yeah, the one thing you know immediately if you're funny or not because they will either laugh or they won't.
yeah. I used to envy when selling my in the early days where I did it. I envied the comedians who had been doing it for a while, and they were using the open night mics and the 5 spots or 7 spots or 10 spots to literally open up their book of jokes and just say, "I'm going to see what lands," because you're there trying to make an impact with your polished five, and you're there, and these guys are like, "No, that one didn't work. Okay, on to the next one." And like, how does this? You're like, how do you get to that level of just like, oh, that's fine. You didn't like it. I'm just going to throw it up and move on, and we'll move on to the next one. But the audience go on the journey with them, and it took a while for me to be able to have the guts to go up and kind of try that level of, look, guys, some of this stuff isn't going to work, and like even saying that to a crowd, it's just an audience is just mad. And I remember one. I went to it's the first comedy night for so there's a promoter they're doing very well now, but I was PM Promotions who are kind of in and around. They do bits of Victorious and stuff like that. But it was the first night that they had a venue, and it was one of those. The venue didn't really know what it was going to be, so the area where the comedy was, they decided to allow people to eat their dinner. And I was doing is, and I maintain to this day a very well crafted joke. It just happened to be the punch line was around penises. Okay. But it was well crafted. It wasn't crass. It was, yeah. And I maintain this to this day. Um, the unfortunate thing was there was a group of 6 elderly gentlemen eating sausage and mash right in front of me, about 3 feet away. And this one little boy just slammed his knife and fork on the table. I went, "Oh, well, that's how it's going to be, is it?" And it killed me dead. I tried interacting, and it was the coldest thing that's ever happened. I don't think they did another one there because I don't think the venue were. Um, like it was them taking it from the venue because they're like, you don't want this. You just want someone to cause noise while people are eating dinner rather than supporting kind of the comedy event, you know?
Yeah, so I've done I MC the gig for PM Promotions, and when I turned up, it was the same thing. It was exactly what you've
Yeah.
just described. It was just a bunch of people in a hotel restaurant eating food. We were walking around the restaurant because there was kids in there, and we were walking around the restaurant going, "Oh, we're about to do a stand-up comedy night." It's at the other side of the restaurant, beside the toilets. It was bad, uh,
Wow.
and then it was kids, and the guy was like, "Oh, was like, there's going to be swearing. He's like, that's fine. My kid hears it all the time. And there was just like a row of kids just whilst people are talking about penises and so on and so forth. Um, so, but yeah, but I've recently done another headline to show for them, and it was brilliant, really. So I think like everybody else, they're learning and they take a bit of a risk on
Yeah.
the venue, and as you do, it's all a bit risky this sort of this circuit. So I've got a lot
Oh,
of time for it.
definitely. Yeah. Payne, Michael's been on. He's coming on again this season, and I love it because they just want to put comedy out there. I think that's great. I mean, people should be. I beat on all the time about people supporting kind of local acts, local live comedy. It doesn't always have to be a 50 quid ticket for a comedian where you can actually see the whole set on all the panel shows they do because
Yeah.
most of it's never actually really original. They're on the panel shows testing out the material for a live show they're going to do. And then you go to the live show and you're like, I've seen all this. Like go to the people who are trying to make it, who have been doing it for a long time and just haven't had the break. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned about people who get into it when they're younger. And I think that it seems to me like there's an awful lot more now that are more visible, but that's because I think social media and things, when we were of an age where, yeah, Instagram and TikTok and all these things which helps people get videos out and clips out, and the circuits were, I don't know, probably reduced in venues, but easier to get into, or maybe it's vice versa. But I don't know, it seems more accessible now to get into comedy than it was when we were younger. Because I often have that thought of, yeah, I've always been that, I don't know, probably ADHD riddled look at me, but if I could focus it on something, I was always the performer. And if there was all these live venues local, if it didn't seem like you had to go to a big city to do it and you could actually do it somewhere quite local, that maybe things would have been different. But then these days, you're one viral video from an open mic away from a Netflix special. Well, certainly that's how it feels, right?
It's true though, because I mean, Matt Rife is somebody who most of us became alive to because of social media, because of his crowd work. I watched an interview with him where he basically said that he was at a comedy thing in support of his mate, so he wasn't even performing. He had the video that eventually that just blew up, and he'd been a comedian for 12 years at the time. Um, and he was getting nowhere. He was thinking about jacking it in, and he says, "I just put that little clip on of me, and it was again another bit of crowd work, and it went viral overnight.
Mm,
And that man made 25 million last year, and he's made another 30 million this year. All not because of one video, but that one video, people then found all of the other stuff that he had, and he just blew the roof off the place.
yeah,
So you're not wrong, and he's done what, three Netflix specials now. So
yeah.
so you're not wrong.
I
Quite
was,
a controversial comic, but yeah, you can.
yeah. I I see he's got some Christmas Netflix special, which I don't know. See, it does. Yeah, I don't begrudge anyone's success. That he's, I suppose he's good at what he does. I've seen a couple of his shows, and it's good. But I suppose in the broader scheme, I don't begrudge anyone who can make it in this business. I think that it's incredibly hard. And there's a lot of, you have the people that graft and graft and graft and graft. And the unfortunate thing is okay, you got those who get lucky from social media and algorithms and it pushes it forward, which is fine because that just highlights the talent. But then there's historically an awful lot of, if people you know and if you know and who they know, etc. And I think there's a perfect amalgamation of people who put the work in, get the videos out there, get a bit of lucky with people they meet, and those are the people who are just, they've engulfed the circuit, they've engulfed doing what they do, they've honed their craft. Because ultimately, you do get found out. Like it doesn't matter who you know or how well you do. At some point, you're going to have 100, 1,000, 10,000 people there sat to watch you, and you're going to get found out if you're not actually as good as that 30-second video made you out to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, you're going to have to get on that stage at some point and put and back it up. And I look and I did mention older people don't tend to. It can be more difficult, but it does make me think of my mate Jeff Innocent, who
Mm.
he's just done his first ever UK tour, and he's also 70 years old. So he's kind of proof that
Wow.
I'm not right about everything. And what a funny bloke he is. Jeff is. I was fortunate enough to spend a couple of days in the car with him, doing some gigs and stuff. And yeah, he's a really funny, engaging bloke, and doesn't seem to have changed since his 20s. But he's proven me wrong in that the older, but he's been around a while. Jeff, before he did his first tour, I think he's been doing comedy nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
So it just goes again, just goes to show if you stick around long enough, you maybe get some stuff as well. But it does help that he's really talented.
Yeah. Oh, it's good because you've got to love it, haven't you? To be able to put the time, the the emotional and creative energy into it for that period of time, and to not necessarily get the big break. Um, yeah, you've got to love it, haven't you? And because getting up on that stage and when it goes well, it's absolutely intoxicating. But you can also see why, without bringing any levels down, but you can see why, yeah, comedians kind of take failure so so hard, and what happens when the crowd stops singing your name and things like that, because it's a rush. Just it's a ridiculous amount of endorphins and everything else, which just engulf you and you buzz for. I don't know what you're like, but after a good gig, you just don't sleep. It's just what are we going? What are we doing now? What are we doing now?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. So I'll drive home and I'll just be sitting in my living room going, I'm still wired because
Yeah,
that went so well. And it's that, like we talked about, that instantaneous feedback. And when you're getting that for so I did a 35-minute set at the military gig last week, and you're getting that for 35 minutes from just constant laughter. And then you come off, and it's almost like it's kind of weird because when you step off the stage, you then turn back into the normal everyday person that you are. But inside, it's like you're just buzzing. You're like, this is
yeah.
so, but and everyone's like coming up and you're getting selfies and handshakes and well done and all that kind of stuff. And then you get in the car and you're on your own. You're like, well, this is sad. This is sad because I'm now
Yeah.
buzzing. I've got no one to talk to.
I
So
say
yeah,
it needs I know a repetitive clip of people just clapping and laughing and just
yeah,
play it,
yeah.
just have it playing. Is there? Do you reckon? I don't know if you knew what you knew about comedy now, or if you had an opportunity to do it when you were younger. Do you
Yeah.
think you would doing that? Like, was there a moment? Okay, this is going to be a two-part question. First of all, was there a moment when you thought, I'm going to give it a go? But did that thought cross your mind when you were, I know, younger at any age? And also, do you think the skills that you've developed over the years meant that you're better at it now than you would have been if you had done it at a younger age?
So yeah, I did think about it when I was younger because I think sometimes when you're in your peer group, there's always going to be the funny one, and I tended to be the funny one. So I did think about it, but because of my career, being in the Navy, I spent a lot of time at sea, so there was never any real consistency for me to get after something. And then, you know, and and I didn't have as many stories. I'm a
Mm.
storytelling comedian, so I think yeah, certainly the skill set of what I've done, I'm much better at it now than I would have been then. I would have learned how to do it properly, um, but just a lifetime of being in the military, delivering briefs, but also doing the ridiculous things that people in the military do. It just allows me to have just a cupboard full of stories. I know comedians that are at the same sort of level of experience than me, and they're still talking about having that solid 15, 20 minute
Yeah.
set to, and I get it. But I can now do up to an hour. And that's not, me being big egoed about it. It's just there's that much of, what you're talking about. When I was younger, I didn't have all this history behind me
Yeah.
of funny things that have happened. Whereas now, the ability and in the military, we don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And we do that where we'll tell us, and people know that we're making parts of it up, but people will tell a funny story, and over the years things get added to it that didn't actually happen.
Yeah, but in your brain, It
Yeah,
did.
but now that I talk about some of the stuff on stage in my head, that's exactly how it happened. That is true to the even though like I take away the credit I would give myself for making it funnier, because I'm trying to sell it to an audience, so I'll just make it a wee bit more
Yeah.
ridiculous, and add just little bits that didn't happen. So yeah, so that's it. But yes, certainly I wouldn't have been as good back then. Yeah, and I did think about it, but I think I've hit it where the time is right. And my naval career is coming to an end. I'm able to give my evenings to do stuff now. Stand fast, things going wrong, and then
Yeah.
having to cancel stuff at the last minute, which happens, but not too often. But yeah, I think I'm a much better comedian now, way better than I would have been if I tried to do it when I was 20.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna pause very quickly because for some reason I'm busting for a pee.
No worries, I will
I
do the
will.
same thing.
Cool.
I will do
I'll be right back. We'll finish this bit and then we'll go on to making it better. Two secs.
perfect.
So that's why I never get a Netflix special because I won't be able to stand on stage for an hour without needing to pee.
Uh,
Oh dear. Right. Pick it up. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things which is quite interesting because as you have to a lot of comedians draw on experience and whether they're storytelling comedians or they're observational, you still have to be in a position to either I don't know, be in a place to gain a story or to look at the observations. Yeah, it's very uh, you can fall in the trap. I mean, I remember asking a very innocent question on a Facebook group. Um, it was some people and they knew I was doing comedy at the time, but I was actually just looking for advice. And then
hmm.
instantly someone says, "Oh, is this for a bit? Are you trying to get information? Are you trying to kind of find stories to kind of put your next joke?" No, actually, I just actually need an answer to a question. I think that's the yeah. Do you think do people? I don't know, talk to you differently, treat you when they find out you do comedy, people that you've known. Obviously, everyone tries to give you a joke to use, but do you,
That
do
happens a lot. That happens a lot. I get a lot of
you
comments
can
like, "Oh,
keep
you can
that
use
one.
that in your set." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep that one. You stick that in your set. Um, but people do. But yeah, but people. Yeah. So I made a mistake early days. And if I could give anybody advice, it would be don't do this. Was doing a comedy show. I had a bunch of people come to see me to support me doing it. and basically I made fun of one of them, and ripped him to pieces. Everyone thought it was funny. Turns out, apart from him, he and I had a
Oh.
conversation. Yeah, so he laughed along with the joke at the time, but he was going through some stuff. He came to the comedy to support me and have a little bit of laugh. Didn't expect to be the target of a joke. Um, so I don't do that anymore unless specifically requested. Which I do get. This is a weird thing. So the people that will tell you, oh, you can use this in your set and all that kind of stuff. I have a mate, a brilliant bloke called Paddy. Um, he did something so ridiculous that he was coming to a comedy show and he was like, "Oh, you could tell that story." And I did. I actually did tell the story because it was like I just couldn't wrap my head around somebody doing that. And what he did was he got engaged to be married. And he didn't mean to because and it's just a stupid story. But he came to the show, and his now wife, not the woman to which he was accidentally engaged, by the way, his now wife threw him right under the bus because he bought he is actually called Patrick, but he's an Irish guy. And he had bought a Celtic ring for his then girlfriend for Christmas, but it was bespoke, so it was being made. And it turned up 6 weeks later, so in and around the 14th of February, and he just sort of pushed the ring across the desk, and his then girlfriend went, "Oh, Paddy, of course I will." And he
Oh.
realized, oh my God, she thinks I'm proposing. Um, but and in that moment, Paddy had a choice to make. His choice was, do I tell her that that's not what was happening? And he didn't. He chickened out. So they were engaged for 6 months
Oh.
until they broke up. I was like, oh my God, you couldn't write it. So when he came, I did that. I thought I will tell that story on stage because that is genuinely quite funny.
Yeah.
So anytime Paddy comes to a comedy show, that did gets rolled out. So yeah, but you do. So people do talk to you differently because they'll like. I'll get every now and again. I'll get like text messages or I've just had this funny situation. Maybe you could use that. And sometimes I do. Sometimes if it's genuinely funny or it suits my style,
Yeah.
then I'll add it into the repertoire and I'll roll it out and use it. Yeah, which is quite good because that just means I've got a bunch of people writing material for me, which I'm really
Definitely.
happy about. I'm like, yeah, cool,
Do
keep
half
going.
the job. Yeah. Just make
Yeah,
it
that's it. I
funnier.
just yeah, do I just encourage them? Tell me, and the people will remember that time we did this thing, and it's funny, so I'll add that in. But yeah, usually at the end of gigs, and it's usually older people as well. I don't know why. Usually older men will come up to me and go, "Oh, yeah, here's a funny story for you. You can
Yeah.
use that." You're like, "Oh, thanks, mate." But yeah, so people do look at you a bit different because they either don't want to be in your set or are trying to get into your set.
Yeah.
And
One
in
way
the
or
case of
another.
Paddy, yeah, Paddy, it worked for him. So yeah, my big advice to young comedians is don't make fun of the people who have come to support you. There'll be people in the audience because there's beer involved. There'll be people in the audience that will allow you to deal with that kind of part of your comedic set. Don't do it to your mates unless specifically requested. And in Paddy's case, every time he comes, every time.
So I just before we go into making it better, I had and it must I think it was and it was only a I don't know it was not quite an open mic, an almost open mic, doing a seven, just throwing some bits and pieces out there. And I actually had my two oldest children who were kind of young adults, or maybe 17 and 18, something like that. And my dad decided he'd come along and be, supportive, mainly because I was relatively close to him. But my sister and brother-in-law were there, and so actually for the maybe I think my sister and brother had been to another gig, but like for the first time, I had actually had a small family contingent, and so and purely for this fact, I changed the whole set I was doing to be quite a in-depth story about yeah, I'm a larger gentleman, always have been, quite overweight, and essentially how that affects your body when doing things like bowel movements, but also sex with my wife, who of 21 years. And so the the uncomfortable laughter from them made it even better. And so that in itself, for the next one, then became the joke. You know, you relive it with the audience, and but just the horror on their face when I made the sound of my piece hitting my stomach as it ripples, and my but yes, that I suppose that's it. You're bringing people in maybe a slightly more positive way, but yeah, it then formed the joke into much like, you're not going to tell that one, are you? If we come, you're not going to tell that one, are you? Well, if you come, I'm definitely telling that.
100%, 100%. Like the
100.
worst thing that my only caveat to that rule is if somebody like my mate Tiny came to a gig and he sent me a text message and he went, I'm coming, I'm sitting in the front row, don't make fun of me. Well, I wasn't going to, but now you've
Uh,
kind of forced my hand by telling me not to. So yeah, and he still talks about that. He took it in good humor because he was like he was up for it. He's a good guy.
but no, I've really enjoyed this conversation because I think it's one. I think a lot of people want to get into comedy, and I think it's a big step for people. And you know, you're always going to have the people who they I don't know they like I said they're funny when in the group, but can't quite put it to stage. I mean, my first ever stand up, I told a story which wherever I tell it makes people fall around with laughter. It didn't transition to stage like that, and that was
Okay.
something I learned instantly. Um, but yes, I think if people want to do it, it's more accessible now than it ever has been. Really, you know, so many live events. You don't have to crack London or Liverpool or anything straight away. You can go to a lot of the time. Your local pub will have something, and it's so easy to get on stage and just try something. But certainly research first. But what I, obviously coming to it a bit later when people do have that life experience and may think, well, do you know what? I'll give it a go. Like, how are we going to make it better? And talking about access to pathways, talking about the confidence levels. I don't know, like what I suppose again, advice for anyone who's maybe at that kind of cusp of 50 thinking, I want to give this a go. Like what are we telling them?
My advice is that what you need, you go to an open mic. It's a 5 minute set. So, come up with your best 5 minutes and sit down and actually think about it. Sit down and write it, know where your punchlines are, understand that you're trying to get, 6 to 7 laughs a minute, thereabouts, depending on the type of comedian that you are. And practice it, get it into your head that you know what it is you're gonna talk about. I've never done it, but we've all seen comedians that write things on their hand. I didn't get
Mhm.
into the habit of it because I didn't know you could. That's how green I was. I just learnt the 5 minutes and delivered it. And then by the time I figured out you could make notes on your hand, I was like, I'm too far down this road to start doing that now.
Oh,
So I just
I was like the
skinned it
guy
off.
from Prison Break. I was covered in them.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
because I
And it's
couldn't.
and it's what, but for me, that's a bit like I find it a bit wild. I mean, so because in the sense that it becomes like a crux, I think, for some comedians and
Yeah.
some of my really, really good mates. Um, I've seen them deliver the exact same 10 minute set, time and memoriam, and every single time they write it down in their hand. I'm like, you must know it by now. We've been doing this for over a year. Why are you still writing this on your hand? But I think it's just that's the routine they get into. So for me, as an older guy getting into it, the sort of advice would be is just to do it. Is the fear factor will always be there the first time that you try anything. So it's prepare for it. Know that it's just 5 minutes, so it's a 5 minute long story. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Change it up, make it a bit more ridiculous. Practice it, but understand that when you do, because the first time I ever practiced stand-up comedy was the day before the first time I did it, and it's not funny.
Uh,
Be understand that when you say it out loud in an empty room because you're practicing saying it, so you have the muscle memory. No one's gonna laugh. You're on your own, and it won't sound funny. And I ended up.
yeah.
Jory Jeff and I were pals by this point on the social media pals. So I sent him a little message going, I'm having a proper crisis of confidence here. And he went, yeah, that's just the way it is for everybody. It's not funny when you say it in a room. So know that. Know that it won't be funny. No one's in that room laughing.
I
But
wish
don't
someone had
worry
told me
about it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, just understand that, and you will have a. But it's still fun. It's still good material. And then get to the open mic nice and early. Experience the room to understand where you are. Talk to the promoter. Try to take away all of the things that are going to make it a rush job, that add pressure to it. So driving around in Hampshire, you got to go on the M27 at some point, and it's generally a nightmare because they're still fixing that road 3 years, 4 years later. It's like, you know, when I was in New York, we went to the Empire State Building, and that thing was built in 14 months. But somehow that road is confusion Britain to the point where it's taken so long, and they're still only like two-thirds of the way through it. It's insane. But anyway, I digress. I digress on my rant of the M27. But yeah, so you try and take the stress out of the first time you do it by getting to the venue early, talking to the promoter, knowing where you are in the order of things coming up, and then just get up there. But one of the big things for me is enjoy it. If you get up there nervous, if you're not smiling and engaging, you're there. Unless, of course, that's part of your stick, to be deadpan and serious. We've
Hmm.
got a couple of really, really good comedians on the circuit. That's their stick. Shannon G being one and Tim Skew being the other. But if your thing is to enjoy it, you got to look like you're enjoying it, even if internally you're nervous and all the rest of it. But smile, be engaging. And the other thing is don't start. So first thing, get the mic stand out of your way. The amount of comedians I see right at the front end that forget that that's there. It's a physical barrier between you and the audience. So get it out of your way, get it moved so that you can be engaged and stand closer to them. Michael Hackett, who's a big comedian in London, taught me this. He said a lot of comedians in their first foray, they get a bit nervous. So they don't want to be too close to the audience. They tend to
Yeah.
stand back other way, get right up in their face. The closer, not don't sit in their lap. That would be insane. But if there's this, if the stage ends there, stand on the edge of the stage, stand right there, so you are as in their face as you can be without sitting in their lap, and it will make the whole experience better. They will like you more. Just something as simple as that, they will like you more. So yeah, those would be my tips for that first time you're about to do it. But the big thing is you got to take the plunge. You just got to do it.
Yeah. I said that. I wish someone had prepped me like that before before I went on. I'd I was kind of the person who said, "Hey, look, kind of funny. I know someone who knows someone who can, or I know someone who can get you up on a stage," and kind of wet and quite cold. Also, my bit of advice is don't wear a blazer,
Okay.
unless it's part of your character, because
Yeah.
you look like you're going up to do your first comedy show. I had
Yeah.
I just thought that's what you had to do. I had the blazer on and it was maroon and it was lovely. But I looked like a 70s kind of
Yeah.
showroom comedian. But no, in all seriousness, I do think, yeah, if it's something you always wanted to do, you gotta give it a go, right? Like just I mean, and also don't pick well, some serious points. First of all, don't pick somewhere for your first five that's too close to home, but also not
Yeah.
too far. So don't do it where you really kind of have that risk of seeing a lot of people that you may know, because yeah, one or two is nervous enough. But if you're in a room and there's kind of a few people hanging around and they all know you and you're like, oh, this is my first ever gig, um, then that can put kind of unnecessary pressure on you. But you also don't want to be too far that if it goes badly, you've got to drive all the way home thinking about it, or if it goes well, you've got to drive all the way home and can't tell anyone about it. Um, but also, you're there's a chance that most of the people in that room, if not all of them, you're never going to see them again. It's your first time. A good MC or promoter will say it's your first time and be nice or don't be nice or whatever it is. Like, just get up there, do what you can do, and then ask people, ask the other comedians that are there, like that, what did I do wrong? What did I do well? What, yeah, just someone talk to me about it. Look for that feedback because, generally, uh, you know, I know a lot of comedians say, well, comedians are assholes. No, it's that difficult thing of cliques and groups will bring each other up, but not as necessarily outside. You know, it's a funny group as comedians, isn't it? But
There is a bit of toxic behavior that happens, and but then
that's generally
that's
from the not as good comedians who are worried people are stepping on them.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
Well, it does seem that there is a trait with the people who or not even toxic, just really negative all the time, and are trying to bring people down for a measure of their success. And I don't really get that. Right at the start of the show, you were talking about building people up and people doing well, and it's a great thing to see. So yeah, I don't really get it. But it exists in every walk of life, so it's just one of those
Yeah.
things you have to be aware of, and it won't surprise you. So yeah, but I do get your point. I chose the attic because the attic is in Totton, so it's about a 40-minute drive from my house.
Hmm.
I figured if I bomb this place, I will never have to see a single one of these people again. Um, and the drive home wasn't too long. Actually,
Yeah.
I was buzzing on the way home, and I think the other thing I would say is, yeah. So I get your point about don't wear a blazer. I go for wear comfortable clothes is the other thing. You don't want to be
Yeah.
too warm up there sweating. So I'm going to do a plug. I have these people, so you will not be surprised to find out this is a naval shop in a place called Dartmouth called Jack Speak, who've sent me T-shirts and stuff, and I send them a little video every now and again of me performing,
Oh,
wearing their
nice.
clothing. But these T-shirts are really comfortable, and they support you can't really see it from there, but it's the Royal Navy Royal Marines charity.
Yeah.
So they support them. So I like to do, you're finding something comfortable to wear. If you feel comfortable, you are comfortable, and you'll be a little bit more confident. So yeah, your point is perfectly placed. Not too far away, but certainly not around the corner. You don't want your local pub, and then you're in there on Saturday night, and everyone's cheering you. You don't want that. You want to run of these people at the local shop. That would be bad.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know the people that you could come across. But no, no, well, first of all, we will put the charity in the bio as well. No, we'll put your social media in the bio. I think, yeah, to kind of put draw a line underneath it. I think stand-up comedy these days there's so much of it on the streaming sites. There's so many anything from roast battles to specials to I mean there's people that never even heard of that you've got access to see. So you may find yeah just on Netflix or Amazon alone like your next favorite comedian, which I think is fantastic. And some of them you resonate with, some of them you don't. But ultimately you're probably guaranteed to be within 10 miles of a pub that has got a stand-up night. Go along and check that out. You may find that the next big things perform there, or at least maybe your next, yeah, your next favorite comedian when people local to you start saying, "Oh, have you seen this?" But oh yeah, I know them ages ago. But ultimately support as well because I think what is the world without laughter? Like it is this point is without joy, without laughter, whether a comedian's good or bad. Respect that they've gone up there and they've had the absolute go you balls to do it because it does take a lot. And you know what? They may just be early on. They may be practicing. They may be, yeah. Just because someone is 50 years old doesn't mean it's not their first set. Maybe just because they're 50 years old and they're really good at it naturally. And we all hate people like that. Doesn't mean they're. So that was, yeah. Um, but it doesn't mean that they're still learning. So be supportive. No one goes to open mics beard up and trying to heckle people. Just support local comedy. So I've gone on a rant because it really does. Yeah, it means a lot, right? Because comedians are generally good people, even if they are also arseholes. But um, and if you want to do it, reach out to someone, reach out to a promoter, reach out to someone or your friend or the friend of a friend and just say, how do I get on this? What do I need to know? What do I need to learn? And I think, reach into this show because I'm sure I know someone who's willing to help if anyone's got any questions. And I think that's a line of it. Would you like to add anything to that?
I think that's really well said, and certainly if anybody listening to this podcast is um, thinking about doing it, same. My socials will be at the bottom. Ping me a question. I had to ask people about getting on a circuit, and once you're on, then it's advice and getting your name out there and meeting people. So there are comedians here that will help open those doors for you. You know yourself, Jeff, and I certainly would do if you've got a genuine
Definitely.
question, ping it in, and we'll do what we can to help you out.
Definitely. And you know what? We may be, yeah, we're kind of based in the south, but if no matter where you are, certainly in the UK, we could be able to find someone who'll be able to give you an opportunity. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel like you're going to be called out or judged for trying it. Just give it a go. Even if it's just because you're the funniest person in the pub, just try it. And you know what? It may not go well, but you might love it. You may it may go brilliantly, but you hate it. But you never know unless you try. Put your money where your mouth is.
100%.
Right, Irish. Before we wrap this up, we're going to do a quick game of Better in 30. Now, this is where I give you a random topic or subject, or it's generally been items. I'm going to be honest with you, it's the first thing I see is going to be your topic. And it's generally whatever my wife has put on my office desk, which I'm probably going to have to move or have to do something with. So far we've had a glove, but even though it was actually a hat, not a glove, and the other one I can't quite remember now. So, um, and all you have to do is talk consistently for 30 seconds about just making it better. Are you up for the challenge?
Yeah, 100%. This sounds interesting.
Fantastic. Okay, right. So what I'll do, I'll give you the topic. And I'll count you in from five, and then your 30 seconds starts from there. And I haven't got my glasses on, so I'm just going to lean in. We have got on the desk today, oh, a 2 kilowatt fan heater. Okay. So basically just a plug-in heater to warm a room. And so, so stupid. So your time will start in five, four, three, two. I'm so sorry. Go.
So to a 2 kilogram fan heater, there's not much that can be improved with that bad boy. But if you could improve it, you would definitely give it to a comedian called Tim Skew. I don't know if you've met Tim or had him on yet. Tim does a delightful joke about a guy called Michael. So myself, I would take your fan heater and I would act this out with Tim. And Tim does a delightful series of jokes in which one of them is about a portable heater, but his friend Michael is dressed as a Mexican, and the entire thing is a Mexican food based puns. So he's in Michael's house in this particular joke. And Tim's walking around with his heater because it's quite cold in Michael's house, but Michael's dressed as a Mexican, and he says, do you have a socket where I can plug this in?" And Michael says, "Why?" And he says, "Fajita." They are dad joke pods, and I don't do it anywhere near the delivery that Tim does. But what he keeps doing is going back to Mike's house, coming up with these weird scenarios in which he then does some sort of food-based Mexican pun, because every single time Mike is dressed as a Mexican, and one of them is for the heater that he's carrying around. So the best thing you could do for your heater is to give it to Tim Skew. That would be my advice right there.
Well, there we go. That was way over 30 seconds, but I knew fajita was coming at some point, and I still laughed.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. Michael Irishman, thank you so much. It's been great. It's been funny, but also I love the building people up, the confidence that hopefully people will get out to maybe try. And you know what? If not comedy, something new, right? Because we live in a world where you need enjoyment, where you need to look for that kind of inner, I don't know, pushing yourself, just something satisfying that you can say, yeah, do you know what? I did that. Whether or not you continue into the future, whether or not you're good at it, great at it, bad at it, you still tried, and you can take a lot of pride in trying and failing, and you can take a lot of pride in trying and just, I don't know, naturally being good or working hard at it. I always called it the kind of Messi and Ronaldo. One's naturally brilliant, and one works hard and had to earn it, but both are just as great a feeling. And you know what? If you put yourself out there and it doesn't go well, what's the worst that can happen? You challenge people to try it themselves. So all there is for me to say um, is Michael Irish McMahon. Thank you so much. I've just it's been fantastic. It's been really good for me, just in general. So if I'm the only person that's listened to this, then I very much I took a lot away from it, and I wish that I had a conversation like this with someone before I got into comedy, and maybe before I ended comedy as well, just to kind of keep on keeping on. But as Irish said, look, there'll be links in the bio for myself and for him. So if you're thinking about it, reach out. So we've had a lot of artists and whether they're physical, audio, whatever it is on this podcast. And if you think, well, do you know what? I don't want to do comedy, but I want to do something else, reach out and we'll see if we can put you in touch with someone who can help or at least give some advice. Right. But that's it. That is a goodbye by a goodbye. It's a goodbye from me, and it's a goodbye from Irish. Any final words?
No, yeah, it's a bucket list item. For me, it was a bucket list item. So just get out there, give it a go, reach out to the show, to myself. Let's get you on that stage and get after it. But yeah, good luck on your journey.
Fantastic. Okay, goodbye from me. Say goodbye, Irish.
Goodbye from me.